Colossal is the story of a star football player at the University of Texas. He is the son of a very famous modern dancer and grew up in his father's company, and we joke that the story is a little bit like the Anti-Billy Elliott. He defied his father by choosing football over dance. And it's as a star player at the University of Texas that he suffers a catastrophic injury on the field. And the play itself is structured like a football game. There's a pregame, there's 4 15-minute quarters, and a halftime show. And it's a game between this character pre-injury and this character post-injury, with the larger question of, will he live his life in the past, when he was a vibrant mover, when he was in a relationship, when he had the courage to defy his father, or will he be able to move into the present of his life when so many aspects of his life have been redefined. If it was a play that was going to be set in the world of football, it would have to live on a grand scale, a much larger scale than is typically seen in the American theater. And I had a mentor, a man named Kirk Lynn, down in Texas, who really helped me embrace that, challenged me to write an unproducible play, to dream the play as big as I wanted it to be. And so this play emerged that was really a fusion of spoken word and movement, that drew heavily on dance, that spoke the language of disability, that demanded a huge cast, a drum line, intense physical choreography. And I began to script that, and I was very lucky at the University of Texas because I had a number of extraordinary resources. I was able to partner with the dance department. I received support from the football team. And then really at the core, I was working with director William Davis. Will's background is in movement. He was a former dancer. And so we really synced up and began working on this piece almost from its inception. And my other partner was a extraordinary actor named Michael Patrick Thornton. So that was really the building blocks of Colossal.
The playwright Andrew Hinderaker and I, we went to grad school together. We actually had both moved to Austin from Chicago, but we didn't actually know each other before Austin. And when we got to Austin and I met Andrew, I had this immediate sense, it was like, here is another artist who works as hard as I do. Thank God we can get some things done. And so we started making work together. We had a couple of early workshops. We were very fortunate to take that piece to the Kennedy Center's MFA New Play workshop 2 years ago, which was where we started folding in drums and started folding in some other languages. And then we did this massive workshop production in Austin about 1.5 years ago now. So now we're here to premiere this piece at the Olney Theater Center, and I couldn't be more thrilled to have this as a capstone production to 3 years of collaboration.
Is everyone warm? No.
Not really, but I'll do it.
Okay.
The script on its own is just that. It's flat on a page. You add a director, something happens. You add one actor, something else happens. But then you have all of these other elements that needed to be added in order to write the production. And then it's who's in the audience that writes each of the individual plays. With Colossal, we already have so many great advantages by bringing this team of 3 people together, but what we bring to the table in terms of the designers that we can bring, the audience that we can bring, the resources that we can bring, and hopefully the artistic mentorship and expertise that we can bring by giving notes in the preview period are going to add up to something that is far greater than the sum of its parts.
Oh, damn it, Joe.
Yeah, what?
Let me know before I do that.
Yeah, there it is.
I feel very fortunate that Colossal is the recipient of a rolling world premiere from the National New Play Network. So its very first production will be here in Olney, Maryland, at the Olney Theater Center, directed by Will Davis. And then immediately after we open the show, Will and I go to Minneapolis to begin a second production with a completely different cast and design team, Mixed Blood Theater. That's extraordinarily exciting because it will be a different physical space, it will be a different audience, and it's a chance for me to continue to work on the play. to take what I learned from this experience, and particularly from seeing it in front of an audience in production, and then to bring that to Minneapolis. And then next year, in 2015, it will be at the Dallas Theater Center in March, directed by their artistic director, Kevin Moriarty, and in Southern Rep in the fall of 2015, directed by Southern Rep's artistic director, Amy Hayes.
You know, it's so incredible to be able to put this particular show together and make decisions that fit this show, these people, these bodies, this audience in a particular way, and then also have this second train running, which is, well, okay, there's another production I'm going to do of this back-to-back in which I can make a whole other set of choices if I wish. It's kind of an incredible gift because I can pull through to Minneapolis the things that just feel like true and right and that we absolutely must be true production to production. And that's already true here, pulling from that workshop production in Austin.
We created something that was maybe not a play and maybe more of a theatrical experience, an event that people could come to. And at its core, Colossal is a character-driven, intimate piece of theater, but the one that lives on a really epic scale.
So, it's epic. This play is an epic, epic piece. But what needs to happen inside of that are these moments of very focused in, closed up intimacy. That's why we've designed this play for the audience like you're sitting on the 50-yard line.
The fact that we have chosen to do it in our 150-seat lab as opposed to our 420-seat main stage, that was a deliberate choice in order to make sure the patrons, the people that we're going to experience it right there. It was going to, hit them viscerally. The sound, the movement, the sweat, the blood on these people, these players is going to be right there for them.
I think this play happens to you. I think it is a bit of an assault, and then embedded in the best possible way, an assault. And then embedded inside of that are these moments of very vulnerable intimacy that are between a father and a son, between two men who are trying to figure out how to love each other, and between this main character and himself. And what about his past and his identity that he's willing to shed to take a risk and take a step forward.
He is going 20 miles per hour in one direction, and then suddenly, impossible. He is still. And 100,000 people go quiet. And everything in front of my tailback says,
The play immediately spoke to me as a tale of masculinity and a question of what makes a man? How do you define what a man is? And you also have three different visions of what it is to be a man. The whole setup of the play immediately asks that question, right? There's a father, Damon, a legendary modern dancer. And when you watch Steve Ochoa, the actor who is performing Damon, doing his warm-ups, doing these beautiful moves, holding his body in ways that the body was not made to be held, expressing himself, his story through his body in that language, you think, wow, that's one way of being a man, is using your body to tell a story in this beautiful artistic way. But the father was rejected by the son. Young Mike turned away from modern dance and went to football.
You choose right now how you're going to spend your time. Dad! No. You decide right now whether you're going to take a lifetime training and throw it away. You choose now, the company or this team.
We think of football as a real masculine vocabulary. Guys banging into each other, right? And you're going to see that, you're going to be part of that, you're going to be on the sidelines actually watching a football game. Tackles happen. That is certainly another way of expressing masculinity. And then finally, you have this gentle soul, older Mike, played by Mike Thornton, who comes on stage in his wheelchair, quiet, reserved, emotionally blocked off from the world, trying to figure out how he can be a man and what it is to be a man for him.
Mike's an actor who uses a wheelchair. About 10 years ago, he had a spinal stroke. And we've worked on a number of projects that aren't specific to disability. But when I realized that this was a role that would be, I reached out to Mike, and he really graciously shared his story, his experience, and that character began to be built around his body.
I mean, this is a guy, the actor, Mike Thornton, who had a freak spinal stroke in 2003. And we are, even though the play is not his story, we are asking him as producer, as playwright, as director, we're asking him to relive the moment of that break every night, 7 nights a week, in the public, in front of an audience. That is an enormous thing to ask of a person to do. And to live in that moment for an hour and a half in front of all of these witnesses takes great courage, great artistic courage.
Fucking ass king. No, I was just wondering if you'd heard from Marcus.
Oh, my God.
No, I was just wondering if you're still in touch.
Yes, I am.
How is he?
He's good. He's real good. He made the practice squad at Jacksonville, so.
Good. That's good.
This piece is absolutely taking a look at the prevailing paradigm of masculinity as expressed through the sport of football. And I often say that football is not just the national pastime. It is the most popular thing that we have of any kind in this country. And it lifts up a very particular brand of masculinity. And parts of that form of masculinity are, to me, exciting and visceral, and parts of it are extraordinarily troubling. And I think that this is a play that looks at it from all angles, that both celebrates and criticizes football and what it's teaching young men to become.
So I'm coming from a very particular perspective on that. I'm a trans-identified person, artist, human in the world. And for me, this show is immensely wonderful because my experience as myself, as Will Davis moving through the world, is about performing masculinity. From what I can see, we're all performing our gender in one way or another. We're all getting up in the morning and putting it on. And then going out and asking people to see us as we want to be seen.
You're doing it wrong. Fuck you, I'm doing it.
We're living in this interesting pivot point where we're starting to see some professional athletes, some NFL players come out, be openly gay, and we're seeing the fallout of that.
Woo! Let's go! Weight training starts at 6 a.m.
There's a moment in the play where young Mike is trying to say to Marcus, you know, it's okay, like, you and I don't know, but we could admit our feelings to each other, as I think, you know, he's somewhere hovering around that line. And Marcus says, you don't understand, this is my life, by which he means football. And young Mike says to him, things are changing. And Marcus says, changing ain't changed. And I think that is the germane pivot point moment I'm talking about, where we are culturally, that things are beginning to change, but changing ain't changed, you know? It's a funky moment for gender in America right now. And it's cool to work on this play, knowing that when I started this process, I was a completely different person with a different name and a different pronoun. And when I think about how this play has sort of signposted my transition into a Will Davis type animal, it's a very proud legacy for me.
When you embark on a production that's this large and a play that demands these many resources, there are inevitably going to be challenges. Essentially, the play is asking the entire creative team to really seamlessly and strongly integrate a number of languages, a heightened football vocabulary, a modern dance vocabulary, the movement vocabulary of disability and spinal injury, to draw all of those languages together and to do it in a way that feels as muscular and economical as possible. You need a team that is working in sync. I feel very fortunate to be a part of this team for that very reason. It's a really extraordinary design team. It's an extraordinary group of choreographers, an unbelievable cast, committed actors who've, since day one, been physically and emotionally exerting themselves. And so lucky to be working with Will Davis, who is a really visionary director in the American theater. I think we're going to be hearing a lot from Will in the coming years. So the challenges thus far have been exciting ones. I have no doubt as we move into tech and as we put this whole piece together that there will be moments where we think, oh boy, these pieces are not all falling into place, that we are not a well-oiled machine. And those moments will be frustrating, certainly. But I think they speak to the challenge of this show and the potential reward if we pull all those elements together.
The play will take no baggage. It will take no softness, no sogginess, no curved lines, no missed beats, no gentle acceleration. This play, like football, is about sharp edges, stopping on a dime, and exploding off the line. So the challenge there is just the challenge of precision. The way we work in the theater, you get 3 weeks max, maybe. We've been incredibly fortunate to have a 4th week funded by the Edgerton Foundation. So the challenge is about repetition and needing to actually condition your body to perform this play. Because it's a play that quarter to quarter has to top itself. So it's got to take the energy of the first quarter and pull it and double it in the second quarter, and pull that and double it in halftime, and pull that and double it in the third quarter, moving on and on and on until we get to the end, and then it's out and done.
The cue for you to take your shirt off will be you're going to have sex again at some point. You know that, don't you? Stand up. We just, you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah,
So that your entrance is now your shirt.
And then when then I exit.
That way.
Right. Great.
Quick change.
Terrific.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Great. My pleasure.
Wonderful.
There are dozens of cities around the country where there are artists who are willing to make new work and take risks and bring that work to their communities. And hopefully, because we are doing this as a rolling world premiere, it's not going to stop just in our community. It's going to go on and around, and it'll hopefully go to New York and Los Angeles and Chicago and all the places that I've worked before, as well as small theaters in small towns all across the country. And so I really appreciate the fact that the American Theater Wing is dedicating this project, is looking at this project as a way of championing not only the birth of new plays, but the birth of new plays in the regional theater in all different parts of this country.
This play, this production, these series of productions are the result of my colleagues in the American theater saying yes when they had every reason to say no. This is a piece that you're told that you shouldn't write. You shouldn't write a play that demands this many resources. And throughout the writing of this piece and throughout the development of this piece, I've been surrounded by people who've said yes. Keep dreaming that definition of theater bigger. I think that theater can be so exciting when it intersects with all the forms of live performance, of sports and performance art and comedy and magic and dance and music. And I'm hungry to engage in that kind of art, hopefully be a part of it.